Welcome back to another Second Look Hockey podcast. As always, I'm your host, David Leo. On camera with me today, we've got, as always, Cristian Ceniti, and we get to see his beautiful face once again, producer Alex Mandarino. Guys, we have a loaded playoff preview prediction schedule for you guys today. Just a quick disclaimer, though. We're recording this on Saturday, so by the time you'll see this on Monday, some games will already happen. So if we do end up dating ourselves before
all
those
of these
games
predictions still
starts,
apply. This is all full conviction. We're not changing our mind after one game. That would be hilarious. But yeah,
listen, we're already
some
gonna
games will
we're gonna pre-argue with ourselves
Oh
in the
yeah.
comment section
100%.
beforehand. So don't worry, we know, okay? Don't worry, guys. Before we jump in, you guys have anything going on this past week? I know it is Easter weekend, and also happy Passover to our Jewish friends as well. For those who celebrate Easter or Passover, happy holidays to both. Guys, you guys have got anything going on? I know it is Easter weekend, so everybody's kind of got family stuff going on, but this past week, anything crazy happened for you guys?
I got a whole lot of nothing here, Dave. I got nothing for you, brother.
I mean,
No,
listen,
just
man.
Family stuff, eh, Dave?
Family.
That's what it is. But I
Don
will say,
Toretto style.
I've never, yeah, exactly. I've never been I know I'm excited for the playoffs, but I will say, I often try and say, "Oh, I am excited." I just say that, but I know that I'm excited because I'm reading every playoff preview.
Yeah.
I'm watching everything I can. Like I am genuinely as gassed up for these playoffs as I think I could possibly be. So I'm excited to kind of talk about it.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Listen, if you guys are jacked up about getting into playoff talk, then we might as well start. I think if you guys are okay with it, I think we start on the West Coast and then we make our way back over to the East. And in doing so, we are going to the current reigning President's Trophy defending holders, the Winnipeg Jets. They're taking on the red hot St. Louis Blues. They've tailed off a little bit recently, but man, that could be a great matchup. Guys, let me hear some thoughts that you guys have for this upcoming series.
Yeah, honestly, I know Mando said off the top, we're excited for just the playoffs in general, and I really do feel that way. And we'll get to a series later on where I kind of said, I think everyone's got this at the bottom, but no, this is another one where I think on balance, people would probably rate it lower, but it deserves a lot of credit. I think, like you said, the heat that the St. Louis Blues are coming into this series with really rises the stakes of the series. But let's not beat around the bush. Winnipeg are the favorites. They absolutely should be the favorites in every sense of the word. All the stats lean in their favor, and they have quite literally the best goalie in the league. He's a Hart Trophy candidate. So that's the simple way of looking at it. Mando, you got anything?
No, I think that's well put. I think if the Winnipeg Jets end up coming out of this series and they do it cleanly, I think people will look at them a little bit more with a serious look towards the finals. I'm just a little bit skeptical on this series in the sense that I don't know if Winnipeg's really shown much in the past few years. They've had a solid team, but in a sense, they're kind of like, I wouldn't compare them to the Leafs, but they're one of those teams where this seems to be one of the best iterations of their team, especially with Hellebuck playing his best hockey, and they have a deeper team. Their defense is strong, and I'm not giving enough credit to St. Louis, but coming in red hot is basically one of the best things you can do heading into the playoffs, regardless of your standings. We saw the LA Kings do it years ago. So I think it'll be a little bit more fun than people give it credit for. But yeah, Cristian, it is on the lower end of the excitement level until the puck drop. We could see things change pretty quickly. Dave, what do you got for us, buddy?
I think it's going to be testy right from the start. Scott Arniel's side, they're hungry. They've been embarrassed the last two playoff series. We're going to get to another team that kind of falls into the same mode of finishing higher in the standings and then kind of falling flat on their face in the playoffs. I think you know them very well, guys. But for the Winnipeg Jets, this series has to be about, asserting your dominance if they want to go through. The only thing for me personally is I don't really believe in them. I really don't. I think just in terms of just at forward alone, I think they do get a lot of depth scoring, but I'm not convinced. Like Vlad Namestnikov as the going into the series as a 2C for me. I know he had a great year. I don't dispute that he's a great player, but I'm not too sure if I'm too comfortable with him in this high leverage matchup. If I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know personally. I don't see it with this current Winnipeg Jets team, regardless of the fact that they won the President's Trophy. And I know everything is going to be going against me, saying like they should be the ones coming out on top, but I don't believe in them. I think they are a facade.
Wow, facade off the first team we talked about. Facade,
yeah,
get them off my screen.
I truly think they're a facade. I don't know for
okay.
For whatever reason, they have the talent. Kyle Connor, like, just finished with a career year, and multiple players on the team actually finished with career years, like Mark Scheifele as well. There's a couple others now that aren't coming to mind, but
Gabe Vilardi, right?
Gabe
Who's
Vilardi,
not
yes.
going to be potentially in this series, right? Like, this is part of it, too, is I think you feel a lot better about Vlad Namestnikov 2C, or as good as you can feel, if you had Gabe Vilardi in the top 6 and Nick Ehlers. It's another guy who's injured here as well.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
Now, Nick Ehlers' playoff record is not good. His numbers
great.
are not very good
Having
at all.
him in the lineup, though, is probably a lot better than
You always
having
take
him in the lineup.
Definitely. So I think that is part of it too. So yeah, I don't know. You want to get into the meat of it? I think for every series, we should maybe lay out like kind of what we have prepared. Each of us are going to come with you.
Oh yeah, go right ahead. Sorry, I was gonna say we've got some matchups that we want to focus on. We've got a couple of playoff X factors. Then after that, we're gonna kind of put the blame on who would get the most blame if should this team lose. So if Winnipeg loses, St. Louis loses, and so on and so forth, and we'll kind of run it that way going forward. But jump just right off the bat. What is a marquee matchup that we should be paying attention to for this series?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and compare two aspects of each team and kind of I want to pick the two most important pieces or the most important piece on each side and tell you if this team wins out, then in this specific battle, they should win the series as a whole. So for Winnipeg and St. Louis, I'm just keeping it really simple. To me, it's the two best players on each side going head to head. Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, already mentioned by you, Dave, they are the leaders of this team. 97 points and a career year for Mark Scheifele. Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou have stepped into that role for St. Louis. It sucks that they've lost Dylan Holloway on the St. Louis side, but like I said, no Gabe Vilardi, no Nick Ehlers for Winnipeg. It should even itself out in terms of the depth, but it starts at the top of the lineup for me. And if you want to talk about carrying water for the Winnipeg Jets, it starts and ends with Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. I think because of how I'm laying this out here, I am leaning towards the Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele side of things. Mm-hmm. But I think for St. Louis, if you're coming up with the recipe to win this series, it's Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou showing that they're on the same level as those two in Winnipeg.
100%. Yeah, no, I mean, it's fair to side with Kyle Connor for sure and Mark Scheifele. Like, they have immense firepower. Kyle Connor, I'll be honest, I wanted to like look back at playoff runs. The guy is like last year they lost in 5, scored 3 goals. Like the guy tends to show up when the lights turn the brightest, right? For me though, I do have a couple. Unless we want to jump ahead, like I've got an X factor for you in this series for Winnipeg, and it's the obvious one. It's Connor Hellebuyck. Connor Hellebuyck has been brutal with the lights at the brightest. Just recently lost the Four Nations face-off against the guy that he's going to be staring down on the other end in Jordan Binnington. Now, I'm not going to sit here and put the blame on Connor Hellebuyck for losing that series, but in playoff past, his stats were brutal. Back-to-back sub 890 save percentages, including .864 last year, like an 86% save percentage for a guy that is going to win the Vezina this year, had a 930 this year, 925 plus. Like the guy was
925 on the dot.
925 on the dot, 46 wins. But he still played 63 games this year. They've been trying to get away from taxing Connor Hellebuck over the past few years, but every year it just kind of seems to be him running back out for 60 plus games, and this year's been no different. So Scott Arniel, Paul Maurice, whoever they had before, like everybody's kind of going down the same formula, and I get it. You don't want to like pull this guy. You don't want to tell him like no, he can't play. But at some point, you got to put your foot down. Mm-hmm. Like I know Eric Comrie's not like the greatest backup goalie, but you can't give the guy an extra 5 games maybe. Like I don't know. Is that so difficult?
I'll be honest. I kind of think limiting him to 63 this year is a win. I think 63 for Connor Hellebuck is. Because I almost think that he demands the net in a sense too. I almost don't know how much rest he wants. I think 20 games out of your backup, honestly, for their setup, is enough. But you're right. Like this is what happens when you have back-to-back playoff, quote-unquote, choke jobs, plus a Four Nations finals loss as the best goalie in the league. You have these questions turned at you, whether they are totally real or not. This is what happens. You are going to be doubted in every sense of the word, and I think it's fair to make that argument.
I think I'll jump into, because just for continuity perspective, I'll get to my blame game for Winnipeg, and it's also Connor Hellebuck. I think he can be the X factor and the blame game. He's been blamed before in the past, over the past couple of years, and Dave, you gave a lot of really great numbers there. And I think just to add on top of that, he's played 63 games this year. I think he played about 64 and 60, one of those two in the past 2 years. So in terms of like his consistency during the regular season, including 9 out of the past 10 games this year. So it's not even like down the stretch they kind of mixed in Comrie there. They kept him and they rode their horse. And maybe that's great for him. Like you said, Cristian, I tend to side more on your side, Dave, where maybe down the stretch you kind of give him a couple extra days off, especially starting as basically one of the first games, like playing pretty early on in the playoff schedule. And then you just look at goalies in general. They often are the pinnacle of a team. We've seen it in the past couple years. I think I did some research, and the goalie with like the worst save percentage as the main goalie, I know there's been a lot of 1-2s in the past couple years, but the worst goalie over the last 10 years to finish with a save percentage was Darcy Kemper, and he was about 902. But that being said, he was playing with an Avs team that went 16-4 to go and win their Stanley Cup in 2000.
Yeah.
You know, so and he had, I think, a Noonan came in and saved his bacon a couple times. Like he had a couple backup moments, but that being said, he had a team in front of him that was able to stop and defend the puck. I know Winnipeg has a great team as well, and some of their defense is understated, but I think it's obvious that if he does not have a good series, Connor Hellebuck does, I don't know how they hold on. I still think they have the firepower, but he's going to be the guy that gets the blame if they can't get it done.
Even last year, though, I vaguely remember them. Like, they went up against a fast Colorado team, and I don't think St. Louis has that type of firepower in terms of, like, intensity and, like, actual firepower. But, like, their defense was trying to do a job. Like, they were doing as best as they could given the circumstance, like, given the talent that was in front of them. And Connor really, really just let them down. So for me, he's my biggest X factor on the Winnipeg side.
Do you have the X factor for the St. Louis side, Dave?
I do, actually. Yeah, I do. So I did cheat a little bit with this one. This is the only one I think I cheated with. Instead of going with one player, I'm going with the collective. And it's the St. Louis PK. Now, just based on face value numbers, you'll see the St. Louis PK ranks 28th in the league. But I'm not trying to denigrate them because over the past 20 games, they've actually been in the top 3 in terms of penalty kill. They've only given up, I believe it's single digits amount of goals shorthanded. Now they're going up against a Winnipeg team who finished first in the power play, yeah. But they've kind of tailed off a little bit recently in terms of like they got off to a real hot start, especially winning 15 of their first 17, I believe, or 15 of their first 16 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is where a bulk of that the
They
power play
built up a
percentage.
nice early
They built
lead
it
there.
up. Yeah, and,
There.
and not many teams were able to really even come close. So for St. Louis, especially the first like 3 to 4 games of the series, when the whistle's going to be a little bit looser, we might see a few extra power plays. And this St. Louis isn't a team to really give up that many power play opportunities. But recently, when they've been very good at stomping it out, right? So for this PK, you don't want to get down early against this team that seemingly has no confidence in the playoffs. And what better way to gain confidence than on your power play, right? So for St. Louis, for me, it's their PK.
Huh.
One thing I'll just add there is, so I've got stats basically for every team, at least on the special teams. I've broken it up until, like their overall on the season. And then I've also got since the Four Nations face-off. So that's February 22nd. So to your point, Dave, St. Louis's penalty kills since Four Nations face-off, 7th in the league, 81.5%. Winnipeg, their power play, same time, 24th in the league. So they've tailed off as well. So the momentum is definitely siding there with that penalty kill. Yeah.
100%.
I'll just jump in on the blame game in terms of St. Louis, although I do think there's not a lot of pressure on them, and they're kind of the darlings of the NHL right now, but I honestly think it's just running out of gas. Like, everyone will look at this team and think what they went 19-4-3 down the stretch after the Four Nations face-off. That's a league best. And obviously they got into the playoff spot. They were an exciting team to kind of watch. I don't know how confident I am in their depth. It seems like they've just been running on sheer will, Jobu in the locker room, and just a great kind of presence in that locker room. I do think that based on a couple interviews I've seen, they have a team that seems to be connected together, which can definitely take you a long way. I know they did this in 2019, and obviously it landed in a Stanley Cup, so we can't count them out at the end of the day. There's a lot of still good core pieces from that run, but it obviously pays to be a hot club. I just don't know if Thomas and Kyrou can continue riding this team and kind of drawing them into the promised land. You have those key pieces like Buchnevich and Jake Neighbors, but you have, like we talked about, Dylan Holloway might not be there. And you got some young pieces that down the road in the future might add a lot, like a Holloway when he's healthy, and Bolduc, who's kind of shown flashes of brilliance. I just don't know if they have the gas to power through like a Connor Hellebuck, as he's likely the X factor rather than the guy to blame. And I think we all have Winnipeg kind of advancing, but I just think it's okay, you showed us you can get into the playoffs, but I don't know if that's all they have moving forward, do the Blues.
So I think on that note, we can kind of give our predictions. And producer Mando, it's unfortunate to say, I do have St. Louis actually advancing.
Oh no!
Games, though.
That's
a
wild.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't hate it because we've seen it happen before. But it's interesting.
My reasoning behind it is, I looked at some of the other matchups as well, and for the most part, I can't really see too many, let's say, upsets happening.
Yeah.
I think this is the only one where we can really where there's a clear chasm between the two teams, and there's a real chance for the favorites to kind of trip and fall on their own face. I don't know. I do feel bad kind of going against the Jets. They're always a fun team to watch. They are loaded with firepower, but man, I can't deny how good St. Louis has been over the past, that'd be close to 2 months now. They've been playing some, at one point they were near the doldrums, near the bottom of the league standings. Dude, their stretch has quite literally put them in territories that we haven't seen since 2019 for them. Yeah. And does that ring a bell for St. Louis?
Never
fans,
heard of it.
Right? Yeah. So listen, I won't sit here and say St. Louis is gonna go for a cup. They could. Anybody could. But I don't know. It just seems to be two teams kind of crossing paths at different times for their seasons.
That's fair. I'll just jump in. I'll give you the last word here, Cristian. I have Winnipeg in 6. I think they make pretty steady work of St. Louis, but St. Louis just kind of claws their way to a couple of wins here. And I just think they run out of gas, like I said. I'll give Winnipeg their credit, and I think this might be the year they push for a conference final and beyond. So that's my prediction there.
I'm going Winnipeg in 6 as well. I do want to give St. Louis their credit. They're a team that are a lot higher on just my likability list than a lot of other teams, but I think Winnipeg now with a chip on their shoulder as well, just even from a media aspect, like they have gotten a lot of quote unquote disrespect, if you want to call it that. And some teams, they're able to channel that and go on a run. Maybe it's not a run, but I think round 1, they will take it on the shoulder and they will be able to get past the St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
100%. On that note, we'll jump ahead to potentially one of the playoff, like the series of the first round. Like I'm pretty excited for this one. It's the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, the 2-3 seed in the West. In the Central. But we do have like they're at least for Dallas's sake, that's not going to be a loaded team. And it's not going to be the same type of team that kind of took Colorado out last year in 5 games, I believe. Like they handily beat them last year. Man, guys, what are we thinking for this series?
I can go right into our marquee matchup here.
Let's do it.
This is what I think it comes down to for me. Like you said, like we've seen this series before. This is a new year though. This is a new playoffs. I think what matters is the new additions on each side. My marquee matchup is simply the additions. On the Dallas side, Mikael Granlund, Mikko Rantanen. I'm going to cheat a little bit here this time, and I'm going to say that Tyler Seguin is an addition after the deadline. He is. He is something that they've been missing, and they're getting him back. And he was over a point per game in the first 20-ish games of the season when he was healthy. And on the Colorado side, you have Martin Necas, obviously the counterpart to Mikko Rantanen, Brock Nelson, and Charlie Coyle. So you've got this trio going up against the Colorado side. I think that what really matters in this series is if we see anything new on either side. Do we see the additions on Dallas kind of... I would say on the Dallas side, you almost just want Mikko Rantanen and Mikael Granlund to like seamlessly fit with Dallas in the sense that they've always been a really good playoff team. Going back to their cup run in the bubble year, they just seem to get so much out of their team come playoffs. I think more than almost any other team, I just see a bump when it comes to the postseason. And they're always in the top 10 regular season-wise. But I can visually see the difference in how they play. That's what you're expecting out of Granlund, Rantanen, and Seguin. We'll see what the health is there. On the Colorado side, it's almost like you do want like something new. You want to see that depth that you didn't see last year, or really just since they won the Cup. They've been looking for the replacement to Nazem Kadri for all this time. Is it Brock Nelson? Can Martin Necas kind of just be what Mikko Rantanen was in the playoffs? Because if you look at Rantanen's stats in Colorado in the postseason, incredible. Over a point per game. They don't have that anymore. Martin Necas' playoff record, not as great, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not a huge fan of him after this year, and I actually do believe that he can at least be a point-per-game guy for them in the playoffs. He has to be the second fiddle to Nathan MacKinnon, at least on forward because you have Cale Makar, but that's kind of what's at stake here. So between the two trios, I think I'm leaning to Colorado. I think I have belief that they can inject something new into the Avs' depth.
I mean, 100% just Necas alone, if he can elevate his game, because I know with the Canes, his numbers haven't been great, but that's also playing in that Canes system. Like that's a real taxing system to play, and they get gassed out by the mid of the second round, the beginning of the third round if they can make it there. I think with a more free-flowing system, I think Martin Necas could be a potential surprise for a lot of people, as if many people don't know who Martin Necas is already. I think this series could be the breakout Martin Necas needs for his Colorado tenure. But yeah, on the Dallas side as well, I am very excited to see Mikko Rantanen in the green and white going up against his former guys. There's going to be no love lost, I think, between the two sides.
What's the line on a Rantanen Landeskog fight? Could you imagine?
Whatever the line is, put me down for thousands
No.
of dollars.
Just put
Oh,
Landeskog doing anything for me would be
Yeah.
incredible.
Yes.
Skating,
Yes.
just putting up
Just
a couple
get on the
passes.
ice.
That would be unbelievable if you see him throw hands there. What
Yeah.
are your X factors in this one, Davo?
So, funny story. Speaking of Gabe Landeskog, he is my Avalanche X Factor. Now, it's not certain if Landeskog's going to step right in game one and start playing big minutes, but this is a guy in his last taste of NHL action. The guy had 22 points as a captain, leading his team to the Cup final. So I can't give you what I think he might do in this current playoffs because we really don't know. We have no idea if he's going to get in games for sure, but 2 games of AHL action just before the playoffs start isn't enough of a sample size for me to tell you, 100% this is the Gabe Landeskog of 2022 and prior years that's coming back to this team. But
does he even need to do anything though? Like, does he have to do anything on the scoreboard? But he could have 0 points.
This is going to be my.
Right?
This is going to be the reason why I think Gabe Landeskog is going to be a big X factor is because they're going to get the guy in the dressing room, and I think that's something that they've been missing. They've been missing their captain's voice, especially in the last 2 playoffs with him not there. I don't think he was around the team before, but I think this year was the start of him kind of like being around the team, kind of getting him ready to jump back into the thing. But now this guy's going to be in full pads and like it's going to be like he's there. And it might not be the same performance as him. And like you said, he could have 0 points in this series. But I think his impact in the dressing room shouldn't be understated. And could you imagine a line of Gabe Landeskog alongside Charlie Coyle and Ross Colton? What on that's going to be the 3 biggest assholes in the league. Like
I was just about to call it the a-hole line. Like that's exactly what I had in my head. Oh my god.
Yeah. And then I'll just quickly jump over to the Dallas side. I think my biggest X factor personally is going to be Thomas Harley. Heiskanen, they have confirmed him out for game 1. Now, I think Heiskanen is going to get back into some games this series, but if he's already out for game 1, that means that we are not getting a 100% Miro Heiskanen, I think, at all, personally.
Yeah.
I think.
But the other thing, too, is Jason Robertson also out for game 1, but he's week to week. So the math doesn't match there, Pete DeBoer.
The math is not mathing. Yeah, exactly. He might not get in. But I would say even if Heiskanen gets in, it's not going to be at the same at 100%. So that means that Thomas Harley is going to have to take on a boatload of responsibilities that maybe a lot of people didn't expect out of him coming into the season, but he's kind of thrust into that position and he's done pretty well in his time there. The defense core, I don't think we need to understate how bad the right side is. It's got Ilya Lyubushkin, who's actually done well as Thomas Harley's partner. He's survived, I would say.
As good as Ilya Lyubushkin can do.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if your right side features Ilya Lyubushkin, Cody Ceci, and Matthew Dumba, if Ilya Lyubushkin's at least the one that could survive, I think you're like it's fine. I'm not expecting big things out of this team personally, but I think Thomas Harley could be a big reason why they stay competitive personally.
Damn, I like that. I like that X factor with Harley. It's such a strange team, Dallas, because they have such potential. Both teams really do, but Dallas has such potential, and we look at this team and we're like, can they just get past this first hill, the fact that they're dealing with some injuries? I'm going to go to my blame game here for Dallas. It's going to be kind of a weird one, but I'm picking Mikko Rantanen. I know that people might think, oh, maybe it's Jake Ottinger, and I think you could probably blame every goalie if a team doesn't win if we were to take the easy route. But I'm going to take Mikko Rantanen, a bit of a strange take, but I think Dallas wins this series personally, and I'll get to my prediction right at the end of the blame game. I have to choose the player that's the likeliest to push them there to pick as the blame game if they don't make it, in a really weird twist of fate. But Rantanen doesn't necessarily seem like a player who has a lot of hatred. And I know that's weird to say. I'm sure in Colorado, he's probably looked at a little strangely, but I think that ends up fueling him in this series. Maybe it's because he doesn't seem like he's like a pissed off guy in interviews. Like Leon Draisaitl's a guy who probably is like a little ball of hate. He's like a very grumpy old man, but he proves it on the ice.
Oh yeah.
And I'd say Rantanen does as well. He had a little bit of a bumpy road in Carolina. A lot of factors played into that. He's played a lot better in Dallas, especially with playoffs. He's 101 points in 81 playoff games. That's been well documented, especially in comparison to guys like Mitch Marner here in Toronto. We've heard about Mikko Rantanen more than I think we'd like to hear. But I think especially with, like we said, Robertson's down, Heiskanen's down. They lost Logan Stankoven, obviously, to get a Mikko Rantanen. But that being said, he is not in the lineup as well. I think he's going to need to provide a playoff spark. I think he's around a point per game in the regular season with Dallas. 19 games played, 18 points, something along those lines. But because you're facing so many obvious additions that are not in the lineup, I think he's going to be the one that needs to provide a spark. So if he doesn't, like if he puts up 2 points in 7 games or he goes pointless, like that's going to be a big void because all eyes are going to be on him to battle in his former team. I think he's going to be hopefully fueled by facing a team that he didn't want to sign, and this story dragged out all year. So I think people are going to look and be like, Rantanen didn't put up the playoff numbers, and as a result, no other forward was able to kind of take the reins. Secondarily, I think you can technically blame Matt Duchene in a sense because he's had such an incredible year. I think he was the leader of the team in points, right?
Yeah,
like
he did.
34 years old or however old he is. Like 6 points in 19 playoff games last year. So that needs to improve in back-to-back series where he doesn't necessarily add any points. That can be looked at. He's not the main guy when you look at the whole team. I know he led the team in points, but there's players above him on the totem pole that would probably be asked to do more. So I would go with Mikko Rantanen. I think for Colorado, I will go for the goaltender here, and it's Mackenzie Blackwood. And I just think it's not that he's been horrible, but he's a big mobile puck stopper. I mean, he can go post to post very easily. I saw it a lot in San Jose, and he's a pretty acrobatic guy. He suits the team well. He suits the style well. But that being said, he ended the season pretty poorly. .878 save percentage, 3.5 GAA, and he went 1-4 down the stretch. And he's never played a playoff game, which is kind of surprising. But I looked it up. Like, he played for a New Jersey Devils team that didn't really hold a lot of water. Goes to San Jose. He may have made a stop elsewhere. I can't recall. But, like, just poor. Is that it? Just poor teams, right? And, I mean, he's on a great team this year. Like, he could very well be their Darcy Kemper to kind of lead them to the promised land here. But I do think that him not playing a playoff game, it's different for goalies, but the environment is still so hostile that you let in a couple, like, really bad goals and your team's already behind the 8 ball, especially against a Dallas squad that's ready to go. So I can see that with Nathan McKinnon leading the charge, Martin Necas, all these pieces that they've added, if Landeskog comes in, it's going to be a lot of raw, and if Mackenzie Blackwood lets them down, it's going to be what they hoped wouldn't be their downfall would end up being their downfall. That being said, I do have Dallas in 7, and I have no explanation why. I just feel it. They've been
Pure
so
vibes,
close.
baby.
It's vibes. It's such a close series, and I know they're missing guys. And Pete DeBoer gets a lot of hate, guys. I was reading on Pete DeBoer gets a lot of hate from
Look
fans.
at Dave.
Doesn't he?
Yeah, okay, here we go. Dave, hater
Dave
number
Boer's
one.
hater.
If Pete DeBoer has no haters, I am dead, man.
I am. So I
know
look,
that's a San Jose boy, but
no, that's what I was saying. But I get it. They never won, Dave.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Okay,
They never
but
won.
not
listen,
even just that.
where are we with Dallas right now? Where are we? We're saying they're the
Same
next
thing.
San Jose.
Next San
That's
Jose.
what we're saying.
So I don't have a feeling. I don't know why.
Sorry,
No, dude. I get it. I get it. You have to take it on the chin. I don't know why. I have a feeling they'll push past, and if they do, they have a lot of success ahead. But I'm picking Dallas in 7.
I think just seeing his face after they lost that 3-goal lead in the final minute of the game against Vancouver, and seeing him like looking up at the screen like why me again, basically. I was just like, oh, the Dallas Stars are in for a rough time, and that's why I have the Avs in 5 games. I don't know if it's that defense besides Thomas Harley and Esa Lindell as well, I have to say. Very, very great defensively. Oh man. This is a team that is a couple weeks removed from, like I said, giving up 3 goals in the final minute of a regulation to the Vancouver Canucks. That they had their own problems this year, but tough. What about you, Cristian?
Man, I really think, and this is stating the obvious, but our answers would be very different, even if it's just like changing the number of games we think the series goes, if even one of Heiskanen or Robertson were healthy. So
Yeah,
I'm really disappointed that we don't get to see this matchup at full health, because I think that would have the juices would have been so much better in this series. They still really, really good. So many storylines. Same as you though, Dave. I cannot get over the right side of Dallas's defense. I think that's going to be the downfall here. I think Blackwood just treads water, and that's all he has to do, because last year Georgiev sank.
True.
And that's what led to their demise. I think Blackwood is able to tread water, but I still have this one going to length. Give me Colorado in 7.
Ooh, okay. Fair enough.
All right. Okay.
On that note, let's jump to the I'll be honest with you guys, I think sneaky underrated pick for a potential cup winner, the Vegas Golden Knights against the Minnesota Wild. We could just jump right into it, guys. Marquee matchup for this series.
Okay, I'm going to go with a little bit something understated, I guess. It's not really what you would think when you're comparing these two teams, but I'm going to compare the shutdown centers here. I'm looking at William Karlsson and Joel Eriksson Ek. They're not going to be shutting each other down, I don't think, but I want to see who does a better job at shutting down the other team's MVP type player, right? Mm-hmm. So Kaprizov would have been in that Hart mix had he played the full season. Obviously got a bit derailed, but he was on that trajectory, and Jack Eichel, talked about him, over 90 points. Those are the two guys that I want to see who can be shut down better by. Joel Eriksson Ek, William Karlsson, two Swedish defensemen. They honestly finished with they both dealt with their own health concerns this year. I think they both got into 40, 50 games. Mm-hmm. William Karlsson, 53 games played, 9 goals, 29 points. Joel Eriksson Ek, 46 games played, 14 goals, 29 points. So same amount of points on the year, but they play similar roles, and I want to see who does a better job at executing as the shutdown C.
Okay.
Awesome.
I like it.
So I've got an X factor here for both teams. My X factor for the Vegas Golden Knights is very obvious. It's Jack Eichel. He's the leading point producer of the team. On the power play, Eichel 7th in the NHL with 34 power play points. That's going to be big in this series because there's only one team in these playoffs that have a worse on face worst power play penalty kill, and it's the Minnesota Wild at 72.4%. That is, you're hovering around the Sharks and the Blackhawks. That's not great company to be around. Sorry, Mando.
Good.
But there's also a Vegas power play that is, they're pretty electric. They're in the top 5 for power play, and I know power play penalty kill isn't the be all end all, but Jack Eichel 5-on-5 as well. This year he had his lowest amount of offensive shift percentage in his career at 19.3%, but his highest amount of defensive zone starts at 15.7%. He was a plus 60 on ice goal differential this year, which is unbelievable, and it blows out his previous career high of 41 set in 2022. When Jack Eichel is healthy and on the ice, he is a difference maker, and I know we saw that with the points this year, but offensively and defensively, the guy is an absolute workhorse, and I can't wait to see what he has in store for this playoff series, because I think personally, is the biggest he's the biggest spark if the Golden Knights want to make a conference finals to a cup final run this year.
I was a big believer that he should have won the Conn Smythe that year that Vegas won the cup. It went to Marchessault.
He definitely had a chance. He definitely had a good chance.
I think Eichel finished second, but he would have got my vote, and I'd say this is the best hockey he's played since that playoff run, without a doubt. I've got some the special team stats if you want to hear them. To your point, Dave.
Give me them. Yeah.
Vegas power play, second on the year, third since Four Nations. penalty kill, 26th on the year, 25th since Four Nations. Not great.
Not great.
Minnesota side, their power play, 20th on the year, 10th since Four Nations. So they have a little bit of steam picking up. But the penalty kill, 30th on the season, 24th since Four Nations. So you're in. Like better, Vegas, but... if they just get to the box, like if both teams are in the box often, that goes in Vegas's favor.
100%. And then I'm going to jump over to the Wild here. Their biggest X factor for me is Brock Faber. So like I mentioned before with Thomas Harley, Brock Faber, he won't have as big of a workload that Thomas Harley's going to have, but he's going to really need to improve and elevate his game. His point production from this year to last year went down from 47 points last year to 29. And a lot of people are saying, like, you know, he's got a real taxing workload. The guy's playing 25 plus minutes a night, especially in the last couple of weeks. His giveaways have increased. His takeaways have kind of decreased a little bit. And there's already talks of Zeev Buium kind of coming in and manning the first power play QB, which is crazy because the guy has one NHL game of experience so far. Just ridiculous to me. He's got a minus 8.1 on ice expected goal differential, which I don't know if you want to see that from your number one D-man, but he's going to need to be a spark for getting by the Vegas Monstars because that is a big team. They are a hungry team. They're quick and they're big as well. Like, that's not a great combination for a Minnesota team that is slightly undersized. I'm looking at like a Marco Rossi as well. He was my honorable mention X factor because they do need a little bit of depth scoring, and getting Marco Rossi maybe off the schneid wouldn't be that great of that bad of an idea. And he's had not a great stretch to end the year as well. And this is a guy that is also a bit undersized, and we know how undersized players can be in the playoffs. They are either electric or they kind of turn into a ghost. So for Marco Rossi's sake, he wants to maybe be the former rather than the latter. But for me, the X factor of this series is going to be Brock Faber and how he elevates his game in the playoffs.
It's crazy the fact that he's a sophomore and like he's getting so much. I mean, rightfully so. He's getting a lot of praise, and Minnesota's known for having these defensive core that are basically all underrated. Like, they're not huge offensive monsters. You got your Spurgeons, you got your Brodins, now you got your Fabers, and you likely have your Buiums, who will probably be one of the more offensive players of that back end. But Faber's been doing it since his first game, but he's only played, 160 games in the NHL, if. So I love the take. It's crazy that he's getting so, he's just such a great player already off the bat. And obviously he's going to be tested early. In terms of a blame game for Vegas, I'm taking just the fact that maybe they just don't play their style. I don't know. I mean, they're the second heaviest team in the NHL. So their average height of their blue line, as we know, is 6'3". This has been documented. They're a massive squad. They've got Keegan Colasar. They have Ivan Barbashev. He's a brick you-know-what house. And, players like that, I think Minnesota's one of the smallest teams. You highlighted it there, Dave, with Marco Rossi being a smaller player. Kirill Kaprizov, I think, is 5'11". I know he's built
Frederick
as
Gaudreau
well.
is definitely under 6 foot.
Right? They have a pretty small D core. I think Jared Spurgeon's a pretty small player as well. They have a smaller team, and Vegas is massive. So they're expected to hopefully bang and crash as much as possible. And for some reason, I just think, Vegas has done this before. We've talked about their blue line in the past couple of years. I just think that they absolutely dominate the Wild in terms of a physical game. And unless they decide to get cute and try and play Minnesota's game and maybe slow the game down and try something different, I just think if they lose, it'll be a bit of a shock, the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think it'll be people being they didn't play physical. They didn't play the way that Vegas is meant to play. On the Minnesota side, I do think I feel so bad for the Wild. And I almost, it's weird because they're the state of hockey, right? And I know they're one of the newer teams in the NHL, at least one of the newer third teams. But they're the state of hockey, and I feel like I never hear from their fans a lot. Their fans, I think a lot of the Minnesota, people living in Minnesota are big fans of hockey in general. They have Minnesota U or U of Minnesota, the high school. championship games and stuff. So maybe they're just more of a hockey nation and they're less concerned about the Wild, which is a bit of an oxymoron there. But they've just never made any noise in the playoffs. And it just feels like another year where it's not going to happen. Maybe you guys have Minnesota as your pick. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I think – go ahead.
Is that
I got Minnesota winning the Cup. No, definitely.
Is that more based on, like, just the Minnesota – we call them the Minnesota Mild for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And Mando used the term state of hockey. I would update the term the state of hockey mediocrity. Like, that's what it is, right? That is what it is. But like I am not about to suggest that there isn't a sleeping giant in terms of a fan base there. And like you said, they're passionate, but they should be among the best of the best, and that is within them. I have no doubt about that. Like you said, though, it's not the year. It's still not the year. This is still the same. It just is.
It's also just a tough matchup in general for them. I think personally, I can't get behind.
And it's really hard to, like, you know, build a Stanley Cup contender when you have $14 million, and I think this is the last year that they've got all this dead cap space, right? Like, it's tough. And when you think about it in that perspective, this is like they are exceeding expectations, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
Not even just that, but I think it should be mentioned, like, two of their top offensive performers this year missed lengthy amount of times through injury, and they both just got back recently, especially Kirill Kaprizov. Like, Joel Eriksson Ek is in this camp as well. He's been fine since returning. Like, he's been good, I would say.
He's got more in there too, though. He showed last year that he's like not just the shutdown guy; he can produce.
He's 100%. He scored 4 goals, I think, this year in one of the games. The game against Minnesota, a game against the Sharks, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it the San Jose? Yeah.
It was,
Damn, Sharks catching strays in every single series preview. But like Dave, even on the back end too, man. Like Spurgeon played 66 games, Middleton played 67, Brodin played 50. Like this is a tough year. This is like, they've overcome adversity this year. They should be, at the end of the year, like, the blame game. Like, really, Minnesota, wipe yourself of all blame. Like, you did what you could this year, right?
And that's a good way to kind of transition just to my blame game. It's hard to blame them because I don't think they're going to win, and I don't think they had much of a chance. And maybe it is just the fact that they've overachieved, and they started so hot, so I think maybe that's where the disparity is. They had a pretty solid start to the year and obviously lost a lot of their guys. If I had to pick someone, which I did, unfortunately it's Kirill Kaprizov, and he's their guy. I mean, I just think it's you live and die by the guy that's going to get you the points. And he was a Hart Trophy candidate the first 20 games of the season and probably would have remained there if he was healthy all year, like you alluded to, Dave. Minnesota's winning percentage with Kirill in the lineup is 61%. I think it was a lot less when he wasn't in the lineup. I don't have the number specifically, but I know it's pretty significant. Yeah. And I think down the stretch I was reading, I took a little bit from Daily Faceoff here, but John Hines put Kirill Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Matt Boldy together. They're basically their top of their lineup. And to kind of preserve that playoff spot, as you saw, the Blues were hot, the Flames were knocking at the door, even the Canucks at one point were in the mix. So they had to kind of put all their resources and pool them together. And in terms of scoring chances, when those three players were together, it was 74-37 in favor of Minnesota when they were playing as a line. So you can name any three of those guys on the line, but I still think Matt Boldy is just coming into who he is, and he's getting a little bit more excitement now. Joel Eriksson Ek is more of a two-way guy, so I think you can not fault him if he can shut down those other guys like you were talking about earlier, Cristian. But Kaprizov is there to score and to put the puck in the net, and if he doesn't, that's Minnesota's only chance. So I think they won't get the blame, but if I had to blame someone, it's Kaprizov, unfortunately.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well said.
Who's the pick here, boys?
Quick predict. Are we going to go unanimous here? Do we all have Vegas?
Yep.
Yeah.
How many games do we have Vegas in for? I've got for 5.
We've got 5 here, brother.
Got 5. Clean sweep here, guys.
Oof.
One thing I want to say on the state of Minnesota mild, John Hines, he's another one of those guys for me that mild coach.
Mild.
Like they hired a Minnesota mild coach. We never touched on the goalies, and all I want to say is it's a saw-off. Aiden Hill, Gustafsson, it's about even for me. Yeah. I think that's right.
I think that's
fair. That's fair enough. I do like Philip Gustafsson, though. I think they have a chance.
Had a good year.
He's like standing on his head, so they might have to rely on him a little bit more.
That's true.
Speaking of potential goalie matchup to watch out for in LA and Edmonton, we have the tale of two goaltenders for me personally. I can quickly jump in here.
Do it.
My X factors. I didn't like putting goaltending X factors, and I did it maybe once or twice before, but this one I have X factors on both sides because Darcy Kemper coming off one of his best statistical seasons in the NHL in the regular season. 922 save percentage, a 29.45 goals saved above expected, which is third best in the NHL. Stuart Skinner on the opposite side. If he starts, Calvin Pickard was not much better. Stuart Skinner, 894 save percentage, 5.65 goals saved above expected, which is fine. Pickard, though, 900, minus 5.86 goals saved above expected. So, however you slice and dice it, the goaltending on the Oilers side does not match up to the goaltending on the Kings side, and I think that's also a byproduct of the Kings system. Those are two X factors for me that I think can make the real difference, apart from we know the X factors on the Edmonton Oilers side, and their health has been come into question recently with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Will they, won't they get into some game action, basically, right? I think they will. They obviously they're both going to get in there, but you got to ask the question about how healthy they're going to be. So for me personally, I'm gonna watch to see, can Stuart Skinner kind of turn it on again like he did in the playoffs last year? Will Darcy Kemper kind of turn into a bit of a pumpkin, or will he be at the level that he was at when they won, when the Avs won the Stanley Cup in 2022, and he was the starting goaltender there? So that's the two questions I have to ask for this series.
Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and hit you with my marquee matchup, which we're gonna change on the fly because I might have had Darcy Kemper versus Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, but no, because listen, like that is where the story starts and ends with this series. Like that is where the talking points are for a reason. I've got something else for you though. On the Edmonton side, they need to lengthen the lineup. Like it needs to be more than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, as much as they are world beaters. And even, let's say, what I mentioned in the next 2 seconds here doesn't come to fruition, they could still win this series off the backs of those two. Like, that's how good those guys are.
For sure.
But if you want to talk about winning a Stanley Cup, which they almost did last year, it requires more than those two. It does. Evander Kane is going to potentially be coming back in this series. This is something that they are adding to the lineup for the first time all year. My counterpart to him on the LA side, Andrei Kuzmenko, added at the deadline, kind of just didn't really do much in Philly after not doing much in Calgary to start the season. Got to LA, 17 points in 22 games for Andrei Kuzmenko, 5 goals. These are guys that I think you can compare their games pretty similarly, like bigger guys with soft hands around the net. Think of Evander Kane, the upside is definitely there, but we haven't even seen the health this season. So
for sure.
I think those are two guys where it's like, yeah, you want to talk about depth, give me Kuzmenko versus Evander Kane as a marquee matchup.
Yeah, how many times have we said like that you need to lengthen the lineup in Edmonton? Last year they had those secondary guys like RNH played really well. Hyman with the 50-goal season continued in the playoffs. This year, I mean, Warren Fogle is a guy who kind of provided depth. He's on the other side now. I think it's one of those things where they just have not, the Oilers, they have not had that secondary scoring. And even their defense, it's just been one of those where it's been pretty laughable outside of, Bouchard on the offensive end. And you got some extra guys, and I'm going to get into that real quick with the blame game. On the LA side, if any year is their year to beat the Oilers, I think this is their likeliest. But I do see that they're not a very offensive team to begin with. But I think offense completely drying up is going to be their downfall. They have a really good defensive structure. But that being said, if we look at some of their players, like Adrian Kempe is their leading scorer with 73 points. Then you have Kopitar 67, Fiala 60. They're very it's a team, right? It's not like one guy.
They roll 4 lines.
They roll 4 lines, and you don't have the world beaters in Draisaitl and McDavid on the other side, who are McDavid not 100 points, but as close as possible, and Draisaitl lit up the world as usual this year with the Art Ross Trophy. Sorry, not the Rocket Richard. They're 28th in power play percentage as well. LA is. And although they don't win with their offense, they're going to have to score if you're going to have those guys in the other team that are going to put the puck in the net. It could be a shootout depending on how things play out. Without a game-breaking talent, I just see that they're going to have to win by committee. And one of these guys, whether it's Byfield, whether it's Kopitar, who's done it like countless times, or whether it's Fiala or Kempe, like they need to put the puck in the net. And one of these guys has to grab the reins and say, like, all right, boys, it's, let's say 4-2. We might have to win 6-5. Like, I'll put the team on my back and score. So we'll see if that ends up happening. A juicy one on Edmonton. I think it's our boy Darnell Nurse. Okay, and man, I
don't know if he's our boy.
No, he's not. He's not my boy. You know what?
He's the boy, maybe.
He's a boy. Look, I think especially after the cross-check to Quinton Byfield a couple games ago, I think he's got a target on his back. Not only on the LA side, I think he's had a target on his back in Edmonton for the past 5 or 6 years. His contract doesn't help, but I think in a way when the Leafs look at guys like Jake Gardiner and players in the past where there's that one defenseman that just doesn't live up to snuff, and I know Morgan Rielly's kind of been teetering on that the past few years. He's gotten a little bit less of that hate in the past couple of months with Carlo on his wing or on his other side there. But point is, I think Darnell Nurse is holding on to that, like, this guy needs to perform. And it is a little bit more helpful that he has like an Evan Bouchard who has taken some of that brunt away from him this year because he doesn't play a lot of great defense. But once those Bouch bombs start flying in the playoffs, no one cares if he's going to make some defensive errors. He's going to score. Is Darnell Nurse going to play the exact same way? And with Ekholm out, Nurse might be the guy that the team looks to kind of bear a lot of that Brock Faber ice time, right? And kind of hold in on some of these big guys. Kulak should cover up a couple holes too. I read it was actually looked at him when I looked up his hockey DB. He's played 3 straight years of 82 games, so he's a rock, right? Like he's a guy that's going to stay out there and probably shut guys down as much as possible. But Nursey boy, he already has the target on his back. He's like, why are you cross-checking guys on the ice? Like in Edmonton, they're like, focus on playoff hockey. And if he doesn't, I can see the Edmonton fans turning on him after like one game.
Who had the chirp? This was probably years ago. The $9 million chirp. Oh my God, who was that?
I don't know.
Someone said to him like on the ice, like it was something along the lines of like, you make $9 million to do nothing. It was basically something like that.
I don't know, but somebody did, and that's been his downfall. I mean, you sign the contract that you sign, and ultimately, like, regardless from there on out, you kind of have to perform, and if you don't, you still earn the money you do. I always hate using an argument too much, but he's kind of been that liability in a certain sense over the past couple of years, and I just wonder if it sticks out like a sore thumb without Ekholm this year as well.
All right, guys. So we've talked enough about the series, the Kings and the Oilers. What do we think is going to go down for the series?
I think this is the year. Year number 4, 4th time's the charm. That's definitely the saying. Give me the Kings in 6. And I think it just goes to what we were talking about. We just finished wrapping up about Darnell Nurse and the Oilers' blue line. Without Ekholm, like here's how the depth chart goes: Bouchard, Nurse, Kulak, and then it's like Jake Wallman. I should throw in there as well. Let's throw in Jake Wallman. Emberson. But Ty Emberson and Troy Stetcher are your 5-6. Or you're looking at like Josh Brown, John Klingberg. Like you are, no matter what, every single night the Edmonton Oilers will be putting out 2 defensemen that should not be in a playoff lineup, at least to start a playoff run. Like you need more than 6 defensemen to make a Stanley Cup run, but you're starting off game 1 of a 16-win journey with 2 guys that really should not be in there. It's a really tough place to start off with. And on the LA side, to me, it's 6 defensemen that are plus like defenders, right? Like plus NHL defensemen. Like Brant Clark, not a plus defender,
Mm-hmm.
33 points in 78 games. He was their leading scorer on the blue line. Awesome. Gavrikov, awesome. Jordan Spence, really good year. 28 points, really good. Mikey Anderson, their shutdown defenseman. Joel Edmondson played over 20 minutes a night, surprisingly, 20 points, and Drew Doughty. Like, that is 6 defenders that should be in the lineup. I think that's the difference for me.
Yeah. I'll just jump in. I just agree. LA in 6. I just think this is the year that they have the likeliest. Like, they have a nucleus of a team. They have Darcy Kemper playing really, really good hockey, and I do think it's an injury bug for Edmonton, and just in the sense that it's Ekholm. Really, like Ekholm is a staple on that back end. We don't know how healthy McDavid and Draisaitl are, and they battle. But we've seen Draisaitl get injured in like back-to-back playoffs, and I just think if he's already injured and he's not 100%. Is he going to be ready to play every game? Is he going to have to miss time? And that's not good for an Edmonton team who, like we said, needs to lengthen their lineup. So give me LA in 6.
Boys, I'm afraid we have a unanimous pick here. I've got LA in 6 as well. I swear, everybody, we didn't communicate beforehand, as you could tell, like from our prior picks. But I think the only way for the Oilers to really have a chance in this series is pray to God that some shaman power comes in and magically heals Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl's ailments. I think they're going to torment a little bit. They're going to do a little bit of tormenting. Like, we know how good those two guys are, but I think the series really hinges on the health of those two guys, and they've done their fair share of putting the pucks in the back of the LA Kings net in prior playoff series. I don't think they've ever been this hurt coming into a series. They typically get hurt during this playoff series. It's really never been beforehand. And just based in terms of like just goaltenders right now, currently, I'm taking Darcy Kemper hand over fist, 100%.
I've made this comparison before, but you guys remember the Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout memes, where it's like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani hit 4 home runs and set a franchise record in RBIs as they lose, not like the first time since Tungsten Armo Doyle. As I think we're gonna get a tweet at the end of this series. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl set a playoff record for points scored between like 2 players as the Edmonton Oilers lose 4-2 to the LA Kings in round 1. Like, that's what I'm expecting in this series.
Very, very, very true. All right, guys, let's jump over to the East. I think we're going to start with probably our most anticipated matchup, and for a lot of people, it's a lot of people's most anticipated matchup. The Battle of Ontario, it's coming back. We finally get to see the Leafs take on sort of new blood opponents for the first time in what feels like forever. It's kind of been a rotating carousel of the top of the Atlantic with Boston, with Florida, with Tampa, right? But this year, the Ottawa Senators, they've very, very surprised. They've surprised a lot of people, I think, 100%. Mm-hmm. Listen, we could talk about this for hours on end. Let's try to keep this one a little bit short. We do have to give a little bit of time to the other teams in the East. Guys, what do we think heading into this series? How confident are we as Leaf fans heading into this series?
Confidence is high. Confidence is high, and it should be high, right? Like, this is the feeling right now, the passion right now. It's feeling good as a Leaf fan. I really don't think you can come into this series and feel timid about it. Like, you have to put all the curse stuff and whatever aside if you're a Leaf fan and just enjoy the series for what it is. I do love the fact that it is the Battle of Ontario. And like you said, like, new blood for like mine and Dave's generation. But Mando, you've probably got some memories of what this series is. And it's bad blood. It's old blood in a sense too. So I think this will be really uniting for the fan base at large, just kind of 2 generations. Because like all I've got is watching the highlight packs and seeing Darcy Tucker fight an entire bench, and like that's what I've got.
And then Joe Nieuwendyk put a couple beach balls past Patrick Volume as well.
Oh my god!
Yeah, like it's great to watch, but you want to be able to experience it firsthand. So I'm really looking forward to that first and foremost before any analysis.
Yeah. What I'll say is growing up, it's funny you bring up like there's a bit of a generational gap. It's not a lot, but obviously I had a bit of experience watching this. I was still pretty young at the time, but my birthday is May 3rd. So for me, normally in the playoffs, it's like the second round is when my birthday would fall. So when we would have family gatherings for my birthday, we would have like blue and white parties because the Leafs were good in that time from around 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age, give or take, the early 2000s. So we wouldn't let my family, like my nonna would come in. We'd be like, you got to put on blue, nonna, otherwise you're not coming into the game. Like, I don't know. You're sitting on the
Don't come
porch.
in with your presents.
None of this
blue.
nice flowery shirt. Put on a jersey. So anyways, for a while, we would be able to watch a game. Like normally it would fall on a weekend. You'd watch the game. Leafs would likely win with the Chris Phillips and the Daniel Alfredsons of the world. And then there was a gap where like there was just sad birthdays because
nothing.
obviously nothing. They wouldn't make the second round. So I always associate my birthday with the Battle of Ontario in that like it was a great series. We always got a chance to kind of celebrate that second round matchup, which often it was. But at the end of the day, it was just kind of a great time. So I'm hoping that there's still that bad blood between the two. Obviously with Ridley Gregg, with what happened last year with Morgan Riley and Brady Tkachuk as just him as a human is going to be someone who stirs up the pot. So
we definitely got a taste of it last year. That definitely seemed to be like the pre. If you would have asked any Leaf fan 12 months ago that when that happened, within the next 12 months, you guys are going to be in a playoff series against each other.
Loved it.
I thought Ottawa was just going to be down and out for the next like couple of years. They didn't really seem to have things on track, and you know what? Good for them for making the push this year and getting into this series. And you know, thankfully that the Leafs won the Atlantic. They're the big dogs right now. It might not be so great for them though. Mando, I have a quick thing about your birthday story. So we also have blue and white parties at my house because my birthday was last Monday. It was on April 14th. So typically in years past, I would probably get like game 2 because game 2 would typically land near and around my birthday. So I would have family over. Or it was either game 1, game 2, or game 3. One of the three. And seemingly every year, whenever I had family over, the Leafs would just blow it. I can't tell you how many just brutal birthdays I've had. If you go back and look at the pictures, I'm smiling through a lot of sadness because there's a lot of playoff heartbreak there.
Blowing the candles with tears in his eyes. Like,
oh yeah. It wasn't great. So I will always, for the next few years, always associate my birthday with playoff heartbreak with my family. So I'm glad that you got to share a little bit of fun at least. So
yeah.
It's a good story from both you guys. I wish I've got my birthday memories of, Leafs preseason games in September. They're really, really good.
It's definitely better that way. At least it
no heartbreak.
The success of the Leafs, right? Which
in
terms of success is not great.
I'll save the Leafs preseason birthday story for another episode, but let's dig in here, boys. Let's dig in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Marquee matchup time. Dude, we could go all over the place with this. I'm going to lay out for you guys what I considered and where I'm landing. So my first thought was just like, dude, it's Leafs versus themselves. Like this is like when you're in English class and you're starting to write essays and they're talking about like man versus environment. This
is man versus self. This is your 1,000-word essay here.
Yeah, that's the first place you got to go. And I'm like, okay. Let's look at the actual freaking rosters. Let's look at the players on the ice here. I've got two options here. Simple one, and it's kind of Leafs versus themselves too, is just like the power play. That's done them in so many times in the postseason. And this year's power play has been really good after having some not so great stretches, right? They finished the year 9th overall, 4th since Four Nations, and the Sens penalty kill 19th on the year, 18th since Four Nations, and their power play is 12th since Four Nations, 11th on the year. Our PK is 17th on the year and 27th since Four Nations, but I still think that special teams battle should be something that the Leafs can take advantage of. It just should be. It should be. I'm gonna go with my last option here, though, that I considered, and I'm just gonna give you this: Bobby McMahon and the third line, assuming that's where he plays, because we've seen Max Domi in the top six
of late.
for a couple games here. But to me, it's about the third line with Bobby McMahon, Nick Robertson, and we'll see who's in the middle, if it's Pontus Holmberg, Max Domi, or Scott Laughton. But I want to see what they can do against, similar story to that Edmonton series, the Sens bottom pairing. You've got 4 defensemen for Ottawa who you feel pretty good about: Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, Artem Zub, Nick Jensen. And then take your pick of the litter. Like, if you're the Leafs, like, who do you want to play? Travis Hamonic, Tyler Clevin, Dennis Gilbert, Nicholas Matanpalo. 2 of those guys are going to be in every night. And the Leafs don't really have a checking line of sorts. It's whatever's going to end up on the fourth line. But you've been trying all year to make this third line a scoring line, and that's led by Bobby McMahon, Nick Robertson. I need to see that those guys who haven't had, in Nick Robertson's case, didn't play games, I don't think, last playoffs.
I don't think so.
And Bobby McMahon didn't because of injury 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. Those guys need to be the difference makers in terms of depth for me.
Not having Bobby McMahon last year is a very, very, against the Bruins, like with a team that does have the size over the Leafs, especially last year, having somebody like Bobby McMahon who has the size and is fast as hell. Like, he's underratedly such a quick skater.
Yep.
And he's also got a bit of a finishing touch, as we found out over the past 12 months, I would say. Man, not having him definitely sucked, and will definitely be could be a huge X factor for the Leafs in this round, but he isn't the X factor that I picked for the Leafs. My X factor is Mr. Matthew Knies. Matthew Knies has really elevated his game this year. It was one of 3 players this year to have over 25 goals and over, is it 150 hits or 175 hits?
I think it's 150 hits, and the 3 names are I'll give you the one name that's not in this series. Tom Wilson is 3.
And the other guy? Brady Tkachuk. Yeah, I mean, listen, we know how good Brady Tkachuk is. Matthew Knies actually finished, in terms of points, relatively similar to Brady Tkachuk. Now, this is also a caveat that the Sens have kind of been Sens have been holding Tkachuk out for precautionary reasons over the last few weeks, especially with their playoff seed already kind of locked up a few weeks prior. They weren't really playing for much going down the stretch. They kind of locked themselves into that wildcard 1 seed. But for Matthew Knies, like, he's been fantastic, especially after the Four Nations break as well. He's a big catalyst for why that power play is so good. Him and JT in front of the net and as like bumpers have been miraculous. And that also goes without saying, like Mitch Marner playing power play quarterback, playing a 5-forward system. A lot of people might not have enjoyed the thought of that heading into the season, but seeing it in action has given me a lot more pause. It's given me a lot more leeway for this power play. Recently, they haven't been lights out like they were for big stretches after the Four Nations break. But I was at the game against the Habs, the game where the Habs could have clinched a playoff spot with.
It was as an eventful a 1-0 game as you could possibly watch.
And I will say, I was sitting on the side for one of the Leafs power plays, and the Leafs outshot the Habs like to holy heck, basically all game. And there was one power play in particular, I believe it might have been like the second one of the game, they must have put on at least 10 grade A chances. Yeah. Like, they were firing that thing. And Jakub Dobeš was playing fire, spoiled to them for that. And it just gives me some pause because I've seen that power play, especially in the playoffs, just wilt and collapse around that time. Like, they would have had a game against Montreal last year in the same types of circumstances. They would have got 3 power plays and put up a shot, if that, in three attempts. But this doesn't look to be like that type of power play, and Matthew Knies is a big reason why having him and JT on the ice, I think it's going to be it's going to be a lot for the Sens to handle, especially some of those defenders. Now,
I've got a question on the
go.
Matthew Knies thing for you here.
Go right ahead.
Similar to Gabe Landeskog question. Does Matthew Knies, to be an X factor, have to do stuff between the whistles? Like, can he just be a great player in between the whistles to be an X factor, or does he have to kind of match the extra spice that Brady Tkachuk brings to the Battle of Ontario?
So here's the thing. I don't think anybody else will match that spice other than Matthew Knies. In the top 6, I would say, because I think Max Domi can do those sorts of things, but I'm also not really trusting Max Domi to play those types of minutes and being out on the ice when Brady Tkachuk is on the ice, especially defensively. I don't think that's a great matchup. But if Matthew Knies wants to be the Gronk that everybody kind of makes him out to be, I think this playoff might be the playoff where he kind of asserts himself as that type of player. Okay. I could quickly just jump over to the Sens X Factor. And we mentioned it before. Jake Sanderson, I think he has had the Leafs on lock all season. Him and Artem Zub have been very, very good together. And Artem Zub's not the guy I would have thought to play on Jake Sanderson's wing, but I think that's just how good Jake Sanderson is, that he could maybe make any defensive partner just look great. And that's not a slight on Artem Zub, who is very good. But Jake Sanderson, now this is his first playoff series. Is he able to elevate his game to a level that is even better than his regular season? I guess we'll find out, right? I think for me, he is the biggest X factor for the Sens in a team full of potential X factors, because we really don't know what the Sens have right now, right? So we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, those are good. I love the questions that are being asked here. And I actually want to do my Ottawa blame game first if they end up losing, which I think, fingers crossed, we're hoping for. It kind of builds into the question of, is Matthew Knies going to be that agitator outside of the whistles? I have a different take. I think I have a bit of a juicy blame game for Ottawa. Not the person, but the reason why. So I'm going to pick Brady Tkachuk as to their blame game if they don't end up winning. Look, I think you can end up blaming probably anybody on this team. It's their first playoff series since Brady Tkachuk and this young core has entered the league, which is kind of crazy because Brady Tkachuk has played over 500 games in the NHL already. But he is obviously, we've seen him play in this environment of late. He's going to be geared up in this series. Like I said, it's his first of his career. We've seen him in the Four Nations. Absolutely, he's a lunatic, and that's what makes him tick, right? 3 goals in 4 games. He obviously fought very early on in the game. Was it Bennett, right? It was Bennett. How can I forget, right? As you alluded to, Dave, he's rested since March, so I feel like he's probably going to have the legs under. But I have a feeling our boy Craig Berube has a plan in the works, and I feel like he's had a plan in the works for a good while now. So we talk about Matthew Knies, but this might be where Scott Laughton actually earns that first-round and Gulbenkian return, okay? We see Brady Tkachuk as this guy who can obviously score, but I think a lot of the times the knock on him is he gets way too emotional, that he lets his own game slip away from him, and he goes and he throws hands or he goes after guys because of late checks, and he completely loses. He sees red, for lack of a better term.
Let's get the red mist.
He's got the red mist, and who better to kind of stir things up outside of a Knies who might need to – maybe he gets off on – maybe his game gets better as he gets more aggressive, but Laughton is not necessarily having a great offensive stretch, to say the absolute least. That's an understatement outside of that overtime winner.
Yeah, I was just about to say,
right?
last goal scorer in regular season.
Scotty Lots.
Crazy.
So – He's going to probably have to get under Brady Tkachuk's skin, and if he can kind of agitate him, slash here and there, a couple cross-checks behind the ref's back, that might bode really well for the Sens, and maybe we throw him off his game because he gets too wired. So I think if the Leafs have a chance to absolutely dominate here, it's because Brady Tkachuk gets off his game, and I have a feeling Scott Laughton might be the heel to Brady Tkachuk and hit the kryptonite, for lack of a better term, as well, if the Leafs are going to kind of blow past him, because he is going to be a threat.
Mando,
sign me up for that, man. Sign me up.
I love that take, especially going hand in hand with the reports that after the game, against the Red Wings, Lawton was like, I'm just focused on the postseason, and the best way that he's like, I've been watching the highlights from the 2000s to the early 2000s playoff series to kind of like get into that mode. Like, he's grown up a Leaf
Love
fan.
that.
He knows what it's about. But, you know, it's always good for a nice little refresher of why you're in the position that you're in. I mean, listen, if we have a Domi on the team, but if Scott Lawton wants to take the Domi name up in quite literal fashion and be the guy to kind of agitate the other guys, I'm completely fine with that. I'm all up for it.
I am ready for the next highlight pack. Okay, game 1, Battle of Ontario here. The Gordie Howe hat trick for Scott Lawton. That includes a fight. So he fought when I was at the last Sens Leafs game. We lost that game. I don't even remember the score now, but I do remember Scott Lawton fighting Ridley Greig.
Yep.
And so we know he can do that. So we know he can have the fight. Guys, I really want to see one of those old timing clap bombs off the rush from Scott Lawton.
Off the breakaway.
He's fired it off a couple times now this year. They are so
one of them's
satisfying.
Gonna go in.
They are so satisfying. I don't know if you could have a bigger pop in Scotiabank Arena than off of a Scott Lawton goal in that fashion. So, hey, sign me up for a fight. Just give me the Gordie Howe from Scott Lawton. On the Brady stuff, the one thing I'd say is I love that theory. And this is the thing. We have the slightest bit of evidence that Brady knows how to control himself. Mm-hmm. And it was Four Nations, right? We saw it outside of in that final game. But I'd say even on the tournament as a whole, when Brady Tkachuk played, he was one of the U.S.'s most dangerous players.
Yes.
Him and like Jake Gensler are the two, right? So he struck fear into all of our hearts in that final, without a doubt. And I don't know if he really did much that saw the red mist, but it just takes one moment, right? That's it. It's in there. It is in there.
Just to counter that, does it maybe help more when you're playing at the Four Nations when you're playing alongside like an Austin Matthews, like you have other guys who can also step up to be the guy, as opposed to you are the guy for the Sens. Like I don't want to discredit Tim Stützle. I don't want to discredit Dylan Cousins and Shane Pinto, all the other guys on the team. But for lack of a better term, Brady Tkachuk is the guy for that team heading into the Four Nations. I don't know if Brady Tkachuk was the face of the U.S. hockey program, but he ended up kind of becoming that. So maybe what do I know? But
counter to the counter, I would say, because he wasn't the quote unquote guy to start at that Four Nations tournament, I think it would have opened him up to do more extracurriculars. He didn't have to carry the offensive load.
For sure.
In Ottawa, he's got to contribute a lot more just on the ice between the whistles before he can get involved with some other stuff, is what I would say. That would be my perspective. But
I got to counter the counter.
Let's go.
All I will say on that is I think it's valid to think that he can hold on to his emotions, and he's a little bit more mature than he was entering the league. Every year will build that in, and the Four Nations helped him, like you suggested, Cristian. But when you have Four Nations team, although you have guys like Sam Bennett and players of that stature, on the Canadian side, everyone there is the top class of their player on their respective teams. No disrespect to Scott Lawton, but Craig Berube can say, lots, look, man, if you score, that's great. But your only goal this series is to piss off Brady Tkachuk. So you can allow a little bit more leeway for players on a regular season team or a regular NHL team in your bottom six to not focus so much on, hey, everyone on Team Canada can score, so not everyone is going to dedicate that agitation to Brady Tkachuk. In this case, Brady Tkachuk is their guy. We have to only shut him down, kind of what you were saying, Dave. Outside of Stützle, I know there's other guys, but you can sacrificial lamb almost a Scott Lawton to dedicate his life to it. So I think there's
I was going to say, Mando, I'm just imagining Craig Berube in his office, and I don't know where the meme comes from, but it's just a line like, if he dies, he dies. Right? That's what you're saying right now about this.
I'm sorry, Scotty. We appreciate it. We traded away a first and Nikita.
Throw him into the fire.
I would say this is going off the rails, but this is really good.
Yes.
It's like you're doing like the movie cast. Like, okay, so imagine like the Leafs roster is the movie cast, and you're voting for like guy to die first. Scott Laughton's high for whatever reason. He's high on my list. If it's like the horror movie, who dies first, he checks out.
The sacrifice won't be forgotten, though.
I can totally see it. Dies in the first 20 minutes of the movie, so
we'll see.
Poor Scott.
I'm fully in.
I love it. Let's see if it can pull through. I do just have the blame game for Toronto, and we already talked about it. It's Marner, right? I mean, unfortunately, it's Marner. There's not a lot to say. 100 points this year. His contract's looming. It could be any one of the core four. Less so probably on Tavares. I think Matthews and Nylander can also be that guy. It's just going to bounce around that triangle who has the least amount of points. But they're all playing pretty much their best hockey outside of Matthews, but he has had a decent past couple games. I think it's any of them. It's probably Marner, but it leads me to just one question for you guys. I know it could be a ridiculous question, but I'm genuinely curious what your thoughts are. So let's say first 3-4 games, Marner goes pointless or he has in a couple assists, but he's not performing, right? Is it a completely ridiculous thought that Craig Berube might say, you're playing a lot of minutes, let's take you off the PK and focus on just offense and playmaking? I don't know if that's a good play. I'm not saying it's a good decision, but I just wonder if there's a way to get Mitch Marner going. He's obviously an incredible two-way player, but is there going to be like, you're focused too much on both ends, we need the offense from you, let's maybe put you on the second unit or let's reduce that amount of time? Is that a crazy thought, or do you think he just kind of rides Marner and he'll figure it out himself?
Knowing Craig, he's just going to ride him, personally. Yeah. He's done that. I think this year is like the most amount of minutes that Matthews and Marner have played in their Leafs tenures, which is crazy because at the beginning of the season, everybody was calling for Mitch Marner to not play on Matthews' wing, and they've kind of looked dynamite together when healthy and when playing together. Yeah, I think that's a fair point to ask. I just don't think Craig Berube is the guy to do that. Fair. I'm even thinking desperate, like a desperate time calls for desperate measure case. Is he even going to consider that? Regardless, like I think the Leafs like PK is much more improved than, or like the personnel on the PK is much more improved than in years past. So maybe you can actually get away with not having Mitch Marner, even if it's not starting the PK and it's getting like the last 30 seconds in, if that's the case, something like that. I don't see it with Craig Berube personally.
Fair. Okay.
I've got two thoughts here. I think Mitch Marner is similar to goalies who, when they feel the puck early, it improves their play for the season on a whole. Like they like to face 30-plus shots. I kind of think that Mitch Marner is in most of his groove when he plays a lot. I think that's kind of part of it. Is he's someone who needs puck touches. That's what feeds into his confidence. And I think the PK is a bit of a motivator for him because, listen, he's great on the penalty kill. And I know that, Mando, you're not saying to take him off because he's a minus there. It is literally just to conserve his stamina and for him to focus, like you said, on the offensive side. But I do think that Mitch Marner takes pride in kind of trying to be the all-around player, the 200-foot guy. And as long as he isn't making a egregious giveaway, I think the more he touches the puck, the better. So that's my thought from like the Mitch Marner perspective. And the PK, I know, Dave, you're saying that I do agree. The personnel looks good. It does look good, but the numbers haven't bared out. And part of that is, like we're saying, down the stretch, you can't really look too much into the numbers because teams aren't putting out their best lineups. That Detroit game, you might as well throw it to the wind in terms of stats. So can't look too far into it. But like I said, they are in the bottom third of the league on penalty kill, both on the year and since Four Nations. I don't know how much you can afford to lose the special teams battle, especially when Ottawa, I'm going to steal this from the Athletics preview of the series. Shout out to Dom Decision, Sean Gentili, and Shayna Goldman. Huge poll of the fact that the Senators the past 3 seasons have drawn the most penalties in the league. There's going to be a lot of action in the box. You're going to rely on your penalty kill hard, and I think Mitch Marner is too big of a component to really fiddle with in the playoffs.
That's fair.
For sure.
Okay.
All right.
Preview predictions.
If that's the case, guys, what is our prediction? I'll start with you, Mando.
Okay. I will give my prediction, and I will have to step off to head to work, and you guys can kind of carry the weight for the East, which I know you can easily do. Look, I think it's Toronto in 6, boys. I don't see any way in which Toronto loses unless it is they beat themselves, Cristian. I've thought about that for like a week. So you said that, I think, on the last pod, or at least at some point. I'm like, unless they go inward and they think too much and they tried them fancy stuff. Craig Berube has been here before. He's won, and I know that's not the be-all, end-all, but he will try and rein the boys in. Look, listen, it's the Battle of Ontario. We've seen this before. Let's get our you-know-what together, and let's pick up our socks and win. And I think they're going to end up winning in 6 because Ottawa will have some firepower. They'll push back. But give me Toronto winning on the road at Canadian Tire and just shutting everyone down and moving on.
On the road in front of tons of Toronto fans, am I right? So listen, that was the great thing of this is it didn't matter if the Leafs were in the wild card spot and the Sens won the division. It was always going to be a home ice advantage for us. And hey, I feel I if this take is old by Monday and the Sens fans actually, well, it can't be old because we're only playing in Toronto. But if you listen to this during the week and we've got some games at Canadian Tire and the Sens fans show up, good on them.
Yeah.
But I'm here in stride. Leafs in 6. Didn't mention the goaltending, but this is the best we've seen from the goaltending duo in Toronto since maybe the Battle of Ontario in the early 2000s. I'm looking for a business-like approach from Toronto. That's what we've gotten for Craig Berube all season. Not many banger quotes from Berube through games 1 to 82. I just want a nice, calm series, and I know that's basically impossible going up against Brady Tkachuk, but that is what I'm aiming for. Just look at round 2. I want it to just be nice and easy, and 6 games is what I've got for Toronto.
Yeah.
I also have Leafs in 6, which might be also a bad sign for us that we're all agreeing with this. But I will say, if it does go the dread in distance and it does go to 7, might not be putting my money on the Leafs in that game. The game 7 demons are still alive and well, and until it happens, maybe this is the year. I just can't get behind them in 7, so I'm hoping for everybody's sake that it ends before 7. All right, we are gonna stick in the East. We're gonna go to Carolina taking on the New Jersey Devils. I'll be honest with you, Cristian. Got this one at the bottom in terms of one. There's always going to be one series that you're just not going to be as interested in. For me, it's going to be this series. And watch it just surprise us. Like, watch it really sneak up on us. I really don't think so. Looking at some of the numbers and looking at some of like just digging a little bit deeper, I think it should be clear cut and dry, basically. But Cristian, what matchup are we looking for now in this series?
Before we get to the marquee matchup, I want to talk about like what we said, because I mentioned it too. Like I said, we all have Carolina versus New Jersey, bottom of the barrel, 8th out of 8th in terms of series that you're most excited to watch. But I'm gonna say like for a number 8 series in that sense, I think it's as exciting as you can get. Like compare it to last year. We had Carolina versus the New York Islanders. Which matchup would you prefer to watch from that perspective?
Probably this one, just because of the Islanders, right? Like
yes, right. Like that's like there boring. Is. I'm just making the tiniest bit of an argument here that Listen, this is not. You can't put like makeup on what's the saying? Can't put makeup on an ugly
on a pig. It's always going to be
lipstick
a pig,
on a pig. Yeah. There you go. So listen, it's more of a pig.
Just call them all
but
pigs.
I think as far as pigs go, we could be doing worse here, man. You could make some nice bacon out of this pig, okay?
Oh yeah, we really got Charlotte's Web over here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, on to the marquee matchup here. I've used this saying. I can't remember which saying I used it in, but we have 2 sleeping giants, and I want to see which one wakes up. Andrei Svechnikov for Carolina, Timo Meier for New Jersey. I think these are 2 players whose play is pretty similar. They are beefier dudes who have offensive touch. They have soft skill. On the year, Timo Meier had 53 points in 80 games. Svechnikov only had 48 in 72. Really similar points per game. And we both know that these guys have more in them, right? Like Timo Meier, the season that he had in San Jose before being traded over, right? He had already scored 31 goals in 57 games, and it was 40 goals on the year in 2023. But even last year, 28 goals, 52 points in 69 games. So he's done the same thing he did last year, but he's played 10 more games. There's way more offense in there for Timo Meier, and we'll see if that really comes to fruition in the playoffs. Same for Svechnikov. This has been a story for, I would honestly say, like since he's joined the Hurricanes. And you had mentioned, like some of it is like just the team itself, the system that holds the players back. But 48 points in 72 games is not good enough. I don't care what system you play for. I don't care if it's the New York Islanders personally, right? You have to be, for a second overall pick, you need to be a guy who carries way more water for the Carolina Hurricanes. We always talk about how they traded for Jake Guentzel last year. They've been looking for another guy to add the offense. Pacioretty before that. A lot of it should come internal. And I'm looking at Svechnikov as a guy that should be able to provide that. So to me, if either of these sleeping giants wake up, they're huge, huge, huge factors in the series.
100%. I really like both of those takes, especially because of like all the hype going behind Svechnikov in the past, especially. He definitely needs to elevate his game come playoff time. And I don't think he really ever has. And for Timo Meier especially, this is a guy traded for out of San Jose, kind of gets
the big contract.
Gets a big contract, bit of a chip on his shoulder, and really hasn't done much with that chip. I think those are really, really good picks. I do have a couple of X factors for you in this series. I'm going to start in New Jersey. It's got to be Jesper Bratt. The guy led the team in points. He is going to have a huge offensive. I was talking about offensive burdens. Burdens, like larger burdens before with Brock Faber, with Thomas Harley. But on the offensive side, losing Jack Hughes, and he's definitely not going to be back. Season-ending injury for him if they end up going far. Jesper Bratt's going to have to take a lot of the pressure in terms of getting points on his shoulders. He has a career high in points this year, 21 goals, 67 assists, 88 points in 81 games. Healthy, career high in points. The whole team has been abysmal at 5-on-5, being outscored 27-42 since Hughes' injury. So he's going to need to kind of be the guy to step up to make sure that, if he, I don't know about defensively, but offensively, he's going to need to be a guy to make the improvements there.
Yeah, even with like a career high in points, I am actually more confident that he can contribute defensively. And still, like the Jack Hughes hole is incredibly tough to fill, right? That's going to be the challenge. I agree.
Yeah. And also going up against a team who controls the pucks like the Canes do, it's going to be imperative that the Devils take their chances when they come, especially against the tandem of Pyotr Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson, who I think maybe we can kind of say are the weakest goaltenders riding into the playoffs right now in terms of like talents. I don't know if you would agree, but I think that they're kind of at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right?
So both under a 900 save percentage. I think that's definitely you're in the right direction.
I think it's like them, and like I know Stu hasn't had a great year, but the one thing between the two, like that tandem and the Oilers tandem, is that the Oilers tandem are coming off a Stanley Cup Finals appearance, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think just in terms of like everything going around them, I think they're the weakest. So now for the Canes though, my X factor, I don't know if maybe you'll get this, maybe you would have got this, but I think Jackson Blake is going to have a very interesting postseason for the Carolina Hurricanes. The rookie himself has been in the Rod Brindamore good books, racking up 3+ more minutes a night over the last 7 games. Now, some of them have come with the caveat that they've been resting players, but I mean, that might also be, it's a good look on Jackson Blake. Like if you're resting guys and the coach is coming to you to kind of be the guy to pick up the slack. I mean, it kind
Especially
of
when your
speaks.
coach is Rod Brendamore, right? Like it's not just any coach; it's Rod the
Yes,
Bod. Yeah,
100%. And he's made good on that promise, scoring 5 times in the last 7 games. He's got some high-end skill and pretty good finishing ability for a rookie, which can be vital for the Canes, who generate a lot of chances but don't really have a bona fide finisher, as we just mentioned before with Andrei Svechnikov. Maybe Jackson Blake is that guy that can kind of elevate his game. He is chippy, but he's also not the biggest. He's 5'11", 180 pounds. So he isn't, like I said, the biggest guy, but he can kind of get in there and get stuck in a little bit more than some other players at his size. So I think Jackson Blake, for me, is the guy that I'd be looking at on the Canes side to be an X factor for this series.
I'm looking forward to a Jason Blake sighting at a Canes game this
That
series.
would be.
That better be the case. Yeah, he
I think
better
it's
be
gonna
there.
happen. I think it might
Yeah,
happen.
I think that's very fair. Yeah. I when I was doing like a bunch of research here, I was kind of just separating teams like their top six and their bottom six, but not necessarily by like what line they play on, because I think a lot of teams might kind of do a sheltered scoring line or just spread their offense so that you have a more balanced top nine. So I just kind of looked down like, okay, here are the forwards in no particular order. Who are the six best forwards on each team? And so when I did it for Carolina, it's like, okay, you have Aho, you have Jarvis, you have Svechnikov. I'd throw Stankoven in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to really think about it. So you have names like Jackson Blake, Taylor Hall, Jack Roslovic, Jordan Stahl. Those are kind of the four I consider, maybe like Jesperi Kotkaniemi. But of those names, I did say Taylor Hall just because there's at the end of the day, this is a guy who won a Hart Trophy, right? Like it's in there. Even if it's on a one game type of deal where he just pops off for a singular 60
Could be
minute.
enough. That one game
right?
could be an elimination game,
Yeah.
right?
So
like,
I threw him in there, but it's like number 6. I've got Jackson Blake. I've got him over Jack Roslovic and Jordan Stahl. I think he is the number 6 guy in terms of offensive potential for Carolina, and I think that, I think he's a great pick there. We can do a little bit of blame game here off the cuff without Mando, and we touched on it. Tell me if you agree. I think blame game on either side does go to the goalies if they do lose the series, right? So Freddie Anderson, well too documented in the playoffs. What tends to happen, takes one stinky goal to really ruin his reputation, right?
It pops in like a bubble.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with the games where we've seen him make the huge stick save on David Pastrnak for the Leafs. Like it's unbelievable that you can see both of those in the same series, but it's what we've seen from Freddie Anderson. So I think blame game probably does fall there. And I think for the Devils, it's also the goalies. Like if you're losing, the one area that you made a concerted effort to upgrade in the offseason and even last trade deadline was goaltending. You got Jake Allen last deadline and you got Markstrom in the summer, to varying results. Jake Markstrom on the year, 49 games played, 900 flat save percentage. Jake Allen, 31 games played, 908. There's honestly an argument to be made that Jake Allen could be the better goaltender. I'm wondering what the leash is on Markstrom, but I would not be surprised at all if we see both of those guys in this series because you alluded to it. I think we both got the Canes here, and I can see the Devils getting desperate and trying to make a change in net there. And maybe one of them gets hot. If they switch to Allen, he's another guy who kind of has that in him. He could be a series stealer because, like you said, sub 900 save percentage for Freddie and Kochetkov. You got anything else for blame game here, or where are you
just,
at?
Just on Markstrom as well. So he suffered that, I believe it was a knee injury just before the Four Nations face-off, and before that injury happened, he was I wouldn't say like a Vezina. He was in the top half of being
he was a difference maker for them.
100%. Got them for a large part. Got them in the position that they kind of held on to for the rest of the season. Then he went down. They kind of struggled a little bit. They come back from the Four Nations face-off, and he comes back from the Four Nations face-off, and he was poor. He had sub 890 save percentage, and also I think a losing record. I forgot to get those stats personally, but it wasn't great. So Yeah, I think that's very fair. So unless he could
So
kind of refine
prediction
his
time, brother.
form, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
time to step up, dude. Like you're in the
yeah.
NHL. You have to step up. So I guess that will be something to see, right? Yeah, I do
I'm
have
gonna
the
give
Canes going
quick.
through though.
Yeah, yeah. Canes at 5.
I have Canes at 5. Yeah. Holy
Okay,
heck, dude.
okay. I'm
Ugh.
gonna give the tiniest bit of credit here to the Devils' special teams. I'm curious to see what these look like in this series. Third best power play on the year, second best since Four Nations, second best penalty kill on the year, 12th best since Four Nations. So those are some really, really good special teams. Not at full health though. No Jack Hughes. Just getting Dougie Hamilton back. No Jonas Siegenthaler for that PK. I'm sure that has the kind
Doesn't
of
help.
part of what, yeah,
Yep.
that's what deflated the PK there. But that's that's something to boast. And Keith's penalty kill and power play, like I said in the playoffs, we've seen what it looks like. So we'll see if this time it turns around. But yeah, with that said, we can definitely move on.
Yeah. So do you want to jump to Washington and Montreal next?
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So we have the last team in, the Montreal Canadiens. You know, they make the playoffs. Nick Suzuki comes out in front of the Bell Center crowd and he's kind of thanking the fans and stuff like that. Like personally, couldn't be me. Uh, a little bit cringy if I'm going to be completely honest. But you know what? Good for them. Their first playoff appearance since they made the Cup Finals in was it 21-22 or 20? No, it's 21-22,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So Cristian, you got a marquee matchup that you want to get into?
I do, and similar to the blame game in the last series, I am going goaltenders here because I really think that this is where we could see a difference. So we'll get into the rest of the roster in a bit, but yeah, Logan Thompson versus Sam Montembeault. Tale of two seasons for both of these guys, right? You have one that maybe like I think a lot of us would say we're surprised to see get named to the Four Nations team in Sam Montembeault. And on the other side, surprised to not see Logan Thompson get that nod. And since that tournament, the Four Nations face off, Thompson's not been as good, and Sam Montembeault has heated up. So
Yeah.
we've seen a bit of a role reversal here. And the other factor, you want to even just expand this to goaltending as our marquee matchup. Charlie Lindgren, in Logan Thompson's absence because he's missed some games with injury, hasn't been great either. Logan Thompson, a -1 goal saved above expected in 39 games played. And then on the other side, Jacob Dobesh has been really good in his limited sample size, only the 16 games, but 9 goals saved above expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking at just pace on save above expected, yeah, he would even be ahead of Montembeault had they played the same amount of games. Now, obviously, like stamina, duration for goalies, like longevity, those are definitely big things, but gotta give the nod on form and on stats to the Montreal goaltending, and I don't know if we would have said that as recently as 2 months ago.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that also leads me to my X factor. At least on the Cap side, it's Logan Thompson, right? Mr. Bet on yourself. Uh, Fred Van Vliet style. He has had a season worthy enough of getting a multi-year extension. Is it 4x4 or 5x5? I forget now what it was.
You can grab it.
Doesn't. Yeah, I mean, he did get it was multi-years. I know that 100%. He ends up
Him and
finishing the
Lindgren
season.
got one.
Yeah, he ended up finishing the season third in goals saved above expected. But that definitely did take a bit of a dip since the Four Nations face-off. Now, uh, I'm gonna trust Logan Thompson's mental fortitude and like resolute like just determination to kind of will himself into just great performances because he's already done it before. Like he's been around it. When I know he wasn't able to be the guy for Vegas like he thought he would be, but he's come to the Caps. And he says like, listen, I want to be like I need to play. Like, you know what I mean? I'm your guy basically, and he has been for a good part of the season. I also want to like say like I don't know if the Caps really have cared about the season at least over the past month, let's say, since
It's funny because yeah, a couple episodes that came on here and it said I was really like Proud of the Caps for taking the goal chased by Ovechkin in stride, and they haven't let it distract them. And then I would say since that point, distracted,
They've been
totally
distracted.
playing distracted.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, you're not wrong at all. So, but you think that they can kind of put that aside really quickly and get back to what they were doing for the season?
I think so. Yeah, I think they
Okay,
could.
okay, okay.
So yeah, so that's my X factor on the Caps, and there is more. Like, there's more players. Really wanted to say Alexei Protash to be my X
Yeah,
factor, but I can't
yeah.
guarantee his health at this current point in
No,
time. I don't know what type of player he's going to be
it
if he
was
gets
not
back
an
into the
injury that
series.
looked good. Like it's. I would be surprised to see him even at the back end of this series, and that's a
Yeah,
big blow. That
huge
is a big
loss,
blow.
especially at even strength, where
Yeah,
this series could be won and lost, right?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I would say like another matchup here, just as we look at the series as a whole, two coaches who, I mean, Carberry did get a taste of the playoffs last year. It ended very quickly,
very,
but
very,
these are
yeah,
coaches on the younger side on the come up in terms of reputation,
yeah.
right? So I am curious to see kind of the
One
adjustment
of
game
them
from these two.
One of them has been there though. Like, he's been on his run, Marty St. Louis, man. He as a player, obviously,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe he kind of uses that experience to kind of galvanize the guys. Like, I know he wasn't the captain, I think, that year. I think it was Vinny Lecavalier, but he was certainly in the leadership core for the Tampa Bay Lightning when they won. And he's been around it, like multiple deep runs with the Lightning and then with the Rangers after. Did he not make that cup final in 2014 with the Rangers?
yeah,
I think he was on that
yeah.
team, right? Like,
I
he's
believe
been
so.
around
Yeah,
it. Marty's got some experience. So if you would have asked me a few months ago who would have been the first coach fired, and I would have said this before the turn of the new year, who was going to be the next coach, like, on the chopping block, it was going to be Marty St. Louis, because he
oh
kind of
wow.
looked like he was a little bit out of his depth.
Hmm.
They were in the bottom. I think they were 31st before it was either December 1st or the turn of the year. And since then, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. They're in a playoff
Yeah,
spot now. So he's gotten his guys to work, and a lot of that's on the backs of guys like Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Uri Slavkovsky, and another player that I do want to mention could be a potential X factor, Ivan Demidov.
who's that,
He's
bro? I
never
what?
heard of that guy. Oh,
Who? Yeah,
have you not been paying
yeah.
attention to the Second Look Sports channel? It kind of feels like we are the Ivan Demidov fan club right now. And I gotta give a little bit of praise for him. I did end up going back to watch. I didn't watch his debut, but I had to go back and rewatch it. It was on my birthday, so I forgive me, I guess, right?
How dare you
But
not watch the Habs on your
the
birthday,
Habs on
baby?
my birthday, I know what a
Your favorite team.
oh yeah, God, I love
Yeah.
them. Yeah, but Ivan Demidov in the two games that he's played, 2 points. Both of them came in one period. Uh, he is as good as advertised. It really looks like
Yeah.
that, and that is a
Yeah.
humongous boost for the Habs heading into this playoff. I know it's really not what they need. I think they definitely need somebody who can kind of lock it down on the back end. They really don't have guys like that. Mike Matheson's kind of fallen off. I know he really wasn't that guy, but
The guy is probably
David
Caden
Sav-
Gooley, who's gonna
um
like
yeah,
get that kind of assignments. Like it's like Gooley. Here's the pairings. So
yeah,
Matheson,
give him.
Carrier, Gooley, Hudson, Struble, Savard. I know you said Savard there, but this is the deal. Who Yanni also just announced yesterday he's going to retire after this playoff run.
It's kind of crazy.
Dude, I went on Twitter and I saw X and I saw the AI generated headline, and my God, it was like it basically just said Savard announces his retirement. I'm like, wait, brother is retiring before the playoffs? Like, I love me some AI generated headlines. Anyways, yeah, he's gonna retire after this playoff run. He only plays less than 16 minutes a night. I can't think you can count on him to be like the primary shutdown defenseman. I think that probably falls on Caden Gooley, and he's the guy who came back from injury, scored the two goals in Montreal's clincher game for them. I I'm coming around on the defense there. I don't love the second pair because you would want more out of Savard even on that bottom pairing, I feel. Um, but I will say, um, I do like the forwards in terms of how they are set up. What I like about Montreal's forwards is each line does have an identity. I talked about like when we were talking about the Leaf series. Leafs don't really have a checking line. It's going to be whatever they cobble together on that fourth line. And there's not many Stanley Cup teams that I know of that have put together a fourth line checking line as their main shutdown unit. That's not usually, it's almost always a second line or a third line, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little outside
Concerning.
the box. They're going to go about it a different way. For Montreal, you have their first line, which is it's a offense first line. Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Slavkovsky. Okay, solid, right? Nick Suzuki's shown, we talked about it. 1C, sounds good. Second line right now, they're going for the shutdown look. It's Gallagher, Dvorak, Josh Anderson. I like it like on paper. We'll see if it can actually be a shutdown line. But they can at least put something together that you're like, okay, I see what you're trying to do there. Third line, sheltered scoring. Line 8, Newhook, Demidov. Makes sense. And then fourth line, Heineman, Evans, Armia. That's a pretty good fourth line. I really can't complain there. So I'm going to come out here and say Montreal has a very balanced forward group. To me, honestly, it goes toe-to-toe with Washington because they don't have Protash now.
Yeah.
They honestly aren't far off in terms of comparing the forward groups. I definitely give the edge to Washington on the back end, right? Like, they're right. Like it's Sandin, Chychrun, Carlson, Fairvary, Matt Roy, one of my favorites, and TVR.
Yeah,
that's a bona fide sixth defenseman. So, but I do have to give Montreal their flowers there because I was not expecting to look at that forward group and say, "Huh, that's better than I thought."
They do. They definitely do compare. On that note, do we want to hand out a prediction here?
Let's do it.
All right. I guess I'll start with this. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm gonna go Caps still. But I'm gonna go Caps in 6. I know a lot of people are really not giving Montreal. Everybody's giving Montreal the sweep thing. I think they're gonna surprise a little bit, honestly.
I said, the more I looked at it, the more it was like these teams are pretty even, right? So even if we want to say forwards are a wash, let's do that. Let's then say slight nod to Washington on defense.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're also giving the slight nod to Montreal in goal. And the coaching, it feels about the same. And the special teams, honestly, looking at it like slight edge to Washington, like to me, it's a knife's edge here, and you wouldn't have expected that. And I really do want to say, like, the Protash injury makes this a closer series than it is.
100%.
I've got Caps in 7. I think it goes the distance. I think they have to sweat this one out. I think Montreal makes them sweat.
Alrighty. Finally, we get to what potentially could be an absolute bloodbath, the Battle of Florida. So we have the Battle of a province in Ontario, now we have the Battle of a state in Florida. Rematch of last year's first round as well, and these two teams have they met over the past 4 years now. It kind of feels like every year we get at least one Battle of Florida.
I think we've had we've had
4.
2. I think 2. I think there was one in not the bubble year, but the semi-bubble year, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
The, when they had the North Division, I believe they matched up that year.
That was the first year Florida made the playoffs. Then there was the year that Florida won the President's Trophy.
Yeah, with Andrew Burnett.
I'm
going to look up here. Either way, you're right. We've seen this a couple times. One time it went in Tampa's favor, and one time it went in Florida's favor, I believe is what we have right now. And you're right, it's going to be a bloodbath.
I feel like it's 2 in Tampa and 1 in Florida, and the one in Florida last year was the one where they won the cup. They do kind of have the bit of a mental edge over Tampa.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. We got 3 series here. So, Panthers in 2020-21, first round matchup, lost to Tampa in 6 games. 2021-22, second round matchup, got swept.
Eesh. Tough,
Why are
yeah.
we forgetting this, right? Tampa,
That
yeah,
was the President's Trophy year,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
then
So
last year they beat Tampa in 5 in the first round.
yeah.
Good
So
memory,
I mean,
Davo.
yeah. I mean, listen. This is the fourth series between the two, and all three previous series, they haven't gone the distance. I'm kind of hoping this one does go the distance, and I'm gonna say it for a selfish reason because should the Leafs end up getting through, and this also maybe if Ottawa ends up going through as well, it's probably for the best for both of those teams that this series doesn't wrap up before 6 games because you kind of want both of these guys to be a little bit more softened up it for the next round and kind of using a little bit more energy going the distance. But this is going to be a heavyweight tilt for the ages. Do you have a marquee matchup for me?
I definitely do. You've got one heavyweight for sure. I would call both of these guys heavyweights, though. I'm going back to the shutdown perspective here, but I'm going on the defense. Ryan McDonagh has had a renaissance coming back to Tampa, where when he won 2 Stanley Cups,
Yep.
and he's going up against Florida's counterpart, Gustav Forsling, who was an absolutely incredible defenseman and really always last year on the way to the Stanley Cup for Florida. Who will be the better shutdown D man? I think that is gonna be part of what decides this series. Gustav Forsling, for his performance relative to last year, hasn't had as great of a year. Still really, really, really good. But I was very surprised to look into the numbers behind Ryan McDonagh and find out I believe he's been the 5th best shutdown defenseman by looking at the Athletics. They've got like basically rankings by it's Decision's formula, defensive rating, offensive rating is how he looks at him. And so here's the top 5. Gavrikov 1, Mikey Anderson 2, so you got 2 LA guys there.
Yeah.
Braden McNabb 3, Cristian 4, Ryan McDonagh 5. Gustav Forsling on this list is 14th.
Okay.
So I think that these two are 2 of the best shutdown defensemen in the league. I want to see what they can do against all the firepower on either side.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have honestly. Ryan McDonagh did not scream to me as being the 5th best defensive defenseman in
I
the
think
NHL.
our perspective is skewed by the Toronto Maple Leafs owning Tampa this year.
Maybe,
right?
and
Yeah.
also owning
Listen, I was
Ryan
surprised,
McDonagh
too.
in the past as well. Like, was he not a part of that Cup Finals run team as well?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the team that the Leafs beat in the first round. I think he was also there as well, or was he already gone by that point? Was he in
I'll
Nashville?
double check for
I
you.
forget. But yeah, no, I think 100%. It just that does not scream to me as the guy who is the 5th. The other names definitely make sense. Like you said, Vlad Gavrikov, and I was like, okay, yeah, for sure. Well, that is pretty interesting actually. For me, I do have a couple of X factors for you. Obviously, on the bold side, it's Andrei Vasilevsky. He's had a back-to-back bad playoff performances against the Leafs in 2023 and then against the Panthers last season. Hasn't really had the greatest of defensemen playing in front of him, I would say, especially even like last year. Like it was Hedman, who wasn't fully healthy. Sergachev, I believe, was there as well. And then after that, yeah, I guess Ryan McDonagh.
Chernak.
Yeah, Eric Chernak, but then it's like Jan Ruda, who's
Yeah.
I think he ended up leaving a couple of years ago as well. It hasn't been great. Like just team defense for
You're always
them.
going to compare them to the 2 Cup teams, right? That's why too, right? So listen,
100%.
yeah.
It's also last year was also the first time that he ever posted. He posted a career low 900 save percentage in the regular season. But this season has been a return to form for Vasilevsky. He's potentially could be on the ballot for a Vezina. There's a lot of
I believe the 2nd best goalie since January 1st behind Connor Hellebuck, the guy who's going to win, right?
Yes.
Like he's been that good.
How many goalies have we mentioned here where it's like they could potentially get Vezina votes? I think this one's a very realistic show. There's been some great goaltending performances this year, and it's been a return to form for Vasi, and he's going to have to outduel his Russian counterpart on the other side, who that whole team kind of has the mental edge over them. I know Tampa's won the first 2 series against them, like we mentioned, right? But last year, losing in 5, and that's coming after losing to the Leafs in 6, where back-to-back years you don't look like the world beaters that you know and should be. And you also, this year now, you're down Steven Stamkos and other key pieces. You bring back Yanni Gourde to kind of rejuvenate the middle six as well, to kind of get the boys back together. But it is going to be an interesting watch to see, can they rebound. And on Florida's side, I don't know if this is a name that you would have picked out, but I've got Maki Samoskevich, and I think it might just be because I love the name.
It's a great name.
Another rookie as well. Finished the year with 15 goals, 31 points in 72 games. He is honestly the exact same size as Jackson Blake, 5'11", 180 pounds. But
it's Dave's type of guy.
Yeah, undersized guy, chippy guy though.
Yeah.
Finished the year 5th in forward hits on the Panthers with 135. He also doesn't really take that many penalties. He's pretty defensively he's pretty responsible.
Disciplined, yeah.
Yeah, very disciplined. Doesn't turn over the puck as much as others. He ranks 9th in forward giveaways, so like with the least amount of giveaways. That means the only player that has played more minutes in that time this year is Eetu Luostarinen, one of his line mates as well. The only other thing though, doesn't really take away the puck as much, but he doesn't give away the puck. And if he can chip in with a couple of key goals in the series, that could be a key X factor for Florida, who's kind of looking for a little bit more from their bottom six, maybe from their, I don't know if he's going to play on their third or their fourth line. They could kind of do a little bit of both. Could be a guy that Pomo leans on going forward. So we'll see.
It's a really good shout. And yeah, he seems like one of those types of guys where it's like you'll notice about really just whenever a team becomes kind of the face of the league or just like the poster child team, they just turn not random dudes, but they are able to turn
guys into dudes.
Yeah. And like Maki Samoskevich, you read that like stat profile and everything, and I'm like, that's a Florida Panther. Like you just gave me the prototypical Florida Panther, right? Passes the smell test, Dave. So
definitely does.
That's a good shout here.
Can he pass the eye test is now the real question, I think.
Yeah. I am really looking forward to this series. The firepower on both sides is incredible. I think these are probably two teams that I'd have in my top 5 for Stanley Cup contenders, and they're matching up in round 1. I think that's fair to say. Do you want to get into predictions here? I think,
I do.
I honestly don't know where you're going, but I am going to go with Tampa. I am really feeling the Tampa momentum. You look at a lot of their numbers on the year, and I like I said, the McDonough stuff, surprising. And really, when you look at anything, like I'm not kidding, you can basically look at any type of team metric, they are in the top 10. Like goals for, first on the year. Goals against, I believe they're, where do I have it here? The goals against is pretty good as well. They're 4th in the league. I was looking in reverse order here. I'm like, where are these guys? No, they're the 4th best defensive team in the league. Their power play, surprise, surprise, 5th in the league. Penalty kill, 6th in the league. Like everything, no matter what. Sources say this team's
pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
I'm gonna come out and say, like, I disrespected this team to start the year. I thought they were a wild card team.
Yeah,
I had the Sens over them.
I do remember that. Yeah, I do remember.
I had the Sens over them. I was thinking, ooh, last playoff spot might come down to Tampa and Washington, and I like Washington. That was my big take, is that Washington's better than I thought, that most people thought. Really disrespected Tampa. And now I'm really bought in. I think the number one name for me that I think is going to be a difference maker, and if you look at the roster, he's kind of one of the only differences from last year, Jake Guentzel. Stepping in for Steven Stamkos.
Oh, yeah.
I mentioned Brady Tkachuk was a guy who struck fear into our hearts at the Four Nations. Nobody struck more fear into my heart than Jake Guentzel. Nobody. And we 100%. Know this guy is a playoff beast.
Yeah.
Talked about Carolina. He was able to score for the Carolina Hurricanes in the playoffs. It's something that basically no one has done.
Even
and
on
they
his
regret
days,
not signing him.
even on his days with the Pens, man, like going back that far as well. Like
Oh
he
yes.
is 100%. Yeah, and then the Four Nations came around and it was like, oh man, don't play Tampa in the first round, basically, because the guy
Yeah.
is about it 100%. On that note, though, I can't go against the reigning Stanley Cup champions. I think this is as split of a decision as there will be in any of these playoff series. This is a 51-49 split advantage I'm going to just give to the Florida Panthers in 7 games. But I can very, very easily see Tampa coming out of this. And like I said, please, God, just let it get to 7 games. Just give us 7 games of just unadulterated, just chaos. Just give me that. If there's one thing I want to see in this playoffs, it's that. Yeah. On that note,
Is this number 2 series for you in terms of what you're looking forward to watching?
Yes. Right now it is. For me though, originally I would have had Dallas and Colorado. I don't know why I did.
The juice is gone from now because of the injuries, or
yeah, the Jason Robertson injury. I don't.
I think if Gabe Landeskog is in game 1, though, I think it goes right back
to number 2.
Though,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, maybe. I could, but I still right now, just considering what these two teams look like, I maybe just have Tampa, Florida as my number 2, regardless.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think I've got them there too. I do think my number 3 is Washington, Montreal.
Oh, really? Okay,
I think the storyline's there where it's like Leonard versus Demidov. Also, Demidov going up against Ovechkin is a really interesting one. The juice that we'll have at the Bell Center. And let's not underestimate like the crowd at Capital One Arena. Like Caps fans show up. They will be absolutely ready to go after the Ovi chase is over. Like this is a team that's deserved their support. I think that series is going to be really, really fun to watch.
So if you want my honest opinion, I think my number 3 is going to be Winnipeg and St. Louis. The only other, I only have two series going the distance, and it's Winnipeg, St. Louis, and it's the Battle of Florida, right? So I think that has to be my number 3, followed by my number 4 still probably being like Dallas and Colorado. I think even with the injuries and stuff, there's still enough talent on both rosters. Especially on the Avs, like just watching Nate McKinnon and Cale Makar, and like they are just killers out there. All right, so I think that's going to wrap up our playoff predictions. Cristian, we went quite long today,
it's a marathon.
With producer Mando as well. It was a marathon. It's not a sprint, just like these playoffs are going to be. Dude, I cannot wait for the start of like for the first puck drop of the first game. I think that's going to be Winnipeg and St. Louis that's starting, right? They start at 6 on Saturday. So, dude, other than that, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow all the Second Look socials. You guys have been killing it recently in terms of views on the channel, leaving us comments, and on our socials with our clips and stuff. Just keep it up, guys. We really want to keep hearing from you. Let us know in the comments how your playoff bracket looks. Did we miss anything that you think is important? Let us know in the comments. Let us know who you guys got going to the finals. We'll definitely be talking more about, things are going to be changing on the fly over the next few weeks in terms of who we think might make it far. So just stay with us, stay tuned. We'll be back next week kind of talking about the first full week of playoff action, and I can't wait. So on that note, we'll see you guys later.